Hi friends, it's Tim Schrock at Design Build Solutions. I want to do a quick video in response, in response to CAD 911 saying Chief Architect does framing incorrectly. And I've got a little list of items here that I think maybe if you have an understanding of what the program's doing, no, it's not as in some ways not as slick and clean as the AutoCAD. I'm not sure how the AutoCAD model or dimensions were created, but we can go through some of these issues and see what Chief Architect is doing so that we can get the information that you're hoping to get out of it. I'm going to be switching back and forth between my notes, AutoCAD, and the video here. So let's start off with a 30 by 20 building, and I'm just going to draw a basic rectangle, and I'm going to auto dimension it and go 240 this direction and 360 in that direction. So there's our 30 by 20. Whoops, that's 30 foot. There we go, 30 by 20. Okay. So let's start off with double clicking on our roof tool, and we've got 8 pitch. We're going to go with rafters instead. We're going to turn off same roof height, eventually same roof height at exterior walls. But for now, I'm going to leave that on and just show you the difference. Structure, we did 5.5 for that, and ridge I think you set at 9.25, and I'm going to click back into options. I'm going to go boxed eaves. I know, and roof, you wanted 16-inch overhangs. Alrighty. I'm going to click OK, but first I'm going to go into the wall here. Because I just hit the Q key on my keyboard. That's my shortcut for roof. I don't know why Q. But 8 pitch, so by default 8 is the pitch. I'm going to hit the space bar and double click on this left wall. This is, see, it's picking up the default. You wanted that at 12. And the overhang, go back in here. Overhang is still 16 by default. All right, so now that for some reason that, oh, by the way, I'm working in X15. I noticed you're working on a Mac. I didn't see what version that was, assuming it's X15. So here's the build automatic roof icon, and I'm going to build the roof planes. Notice same roof height at exterior walls. Because I've got a 2 pitch, let's go to roof plan. We got the 12-12 and the 8-12. This is 16 inches. Chief Architect figured out this needed to be 10 and 11/16 to keep all the same heights and hit the corner. If I go into this automatic roof plane and uncheck this same roof height at exterior walls and build roof planes again, it will now set this at that 16-inch overhang automatically. All right. Now I'm going to select, I'm going to hit the Q key on my keyboard again and just hit the shift key while I click and drag, and I'm going to manually build. Oh, let's do it this way. I'm going to open these. You had automatic build roof framing on. And so I'm going to switch to my framing roof plan view, and let's turn on the roof planes so we can see the dashed lines there. All right. One of the things I noticed, and I'm not sure why your Mac version wouldn't, my common rafters, or not common rafters, the jack rafters on this end where both roof planes are 812, let's turn on the labels, do line up, even without the framing reference. So I'm not sure why that is, but let's go ahead and build a framing reference so that that default layer is not turned on in this layer set. So yes, we want to see that. And notice structure automatically build roof framing. Automatically build. Interesting. I'm not sure why the framing reference isn't working now, but so let's just delete it for the moment. All right. First off, to deal with the ridge length, I understand this isn't quite as simple as you've got laid out on the AutoCAD, 13/10 and 13/16. I just measured from outside edge to outside edge of these end rafters. And yes, Chief is, the way it's doing it is off of the center line of the rafter, and then it draws the 3D rafter. We'll get into that later with the length of the jack rafters too. But I'm going to select this ridge. I'm going to hold the C key, C for concentric. And by the way, I would suggest you turn off your grid snaps. That's why you couldn't pick that up. So C key, and before you click, I'm going to drag that over. And as I'm dragging, I can pick up any mark that I want to. You see the little blue circles right there? Pick up any mark along this line that I want to here. I'm just going to pick up the edge of this rafter right there, like that. And current operation modifies a roof framing member. Because we have the automatic roof framing turned on, let's do this. Let's say we moved this. Notice that the framing went with it because automatic roof framing is turned on. Now, if I undo that, the framing moves with it, right? So Chief is saying, hey, when you're moving this, are you sure that you want to turn off the automatic roof framing? Because you can't have manually adjusted framing members and have automatic roof framing turned on at the same time. So Chief is going, what do you want to do? Do you want to turn it off, or do you want to leave automatic roof framing on? So yes, would you like to turn off automatic roof framing and continue with this operation? Yes, we would. All right, now this rafter goes like through the ridge. Yeah, right? Concentric means it moved it equally on both sides. So we moved 3/4 to the right and 3/4 to the left in one movement. Now I'm going to click my Q key on the keyboard. That's my shortcut for roofs. I'm going to click and shift click and manually rebuild these. And notice that cleaned that right up, right there, on both ends. Now, to your point of this should be 13/10 and 9/16, I believe was on your measurement. Again, I'm curious how you came up with these in AutoCAD, but you're right. Let's take a section of this, and I'm going to go into my framing section, and I'm going to turn off roof planes, and I'm going to turn off, I'm going to search for cap, turn off ridge cap. So all I see right now then is framing. I'm going to delete this hip rafter and draw just a line here. And you're correct. This end rafter should be moved over a smidge, right? Because it should not be sticking out above this 12-12 movement. Now, I could just take a tape measure and measure from here to there, and that says 1/4 of an inch, right? So I'm just going to grab that rafter member, and I'm going to point-to-point move. I've set it up on my keyboard hotkeys as X, so I'm going to go from point A. That's not quite doing what I want, so I'm going to draw a line over here because that means two intersecting lines. I've got a cross point intersection right there, so really, really clean. Now I select the rafter, and point A is that edge to that cross point, and there is that the rafter on this side is moved. Now I need to move the rafter on the opposite side of the ridge. But that I selected right here is like this first. Notice when I click on this, I just selected the rafter ridge. Right down here in the lower left-hand corner, it says rafter ridge. I don't want to move that. I just want to move this edge. So I'm going to move that over here. Now I'm seeing the rafter. When I click there, I'm seeing rafter. Notice over here it says rafter, lower left. Now I can point to point to move this one, and that's the one opposite side of the ridge. And right here, if I want to, I could drag this up here. Notice I kind of have this phantom line right here. That's the, that's the part we cut off with our vertical pitch, right? So I'm going to drag this edge. I'm going to click on that so we get that red square highlighted right there, and drag that right up to that point. And notice it moved everything exactly where it should be. All right, so now I'm going to select this 12-12 pitch and manually rebuild it. And sure enough, it's built right up to the ridge and the end rafter, including the hip rafters. Now, the hip rafters should also be offset because it's a because it's the 2-pitch, the 8-12-12-12 hip. It should not be following that center line, right? Because let's go to framing overview. Yeah, we've got yeah. Anyway, so that doesn't quite work. I guess I would say that, overall, Chief, notice now 13, 10, and 9/16 is our hip length. Is our ridge length. So back to what I was saying earlier. No, it's not down to the 1/16 of an inch, but it's close. I guess I've never provided this level of detail for framing lengths, and I get a lot of projects completed in a year, over close to 50, plus or minus a few there, average per year. So, of course, I'm not doing new homes either, where you can really always depend upon exact dead nuts 30 by 20 foundations and walls. Most of my projects are remodeling. So now let's go into yes. Okay. So we did the concentric stretch ridge and then adjusted the ridge over for the double double pitch roof there, hips there. Took the framing section, turned off roof plane, ridge caps, and moved the rafters. Okay. Common end rafters are not the same. I think we cut that before. Manually build side roof planes. So that's what I did. I just, after I adjusted the ridge, I manually built just these two rafters, right? These two ridge planes. Now, let's go ahead and put a framing reference in here, framing marker, from right there. And I am curious what happens if we adjust this. Goes back to 1310, doesn't it? Earlier when I was playing with this I'm not sure why. Let's go into framing here, roof, automatically build, use framing reference, build roof framing. There it is. Now it moved that onto that side. Anyway, I'm going to turn that layer off for now. And I'm going to go back into my concentric move. Yes, turn that off. I'm going to move, since we already know this, actually 1310 and 5/6, which is rounds to 1310 and 13/16. So let's go 9/16. That's where it should be. And then I'm going to select this and frame that. Okay. Now, as I noted earlier, mine did build the 8/12 pitch jack rafters opposite each other without the framing reference. So I'm curious if that's a difference between Mac and PC, or if that's a difference between maybe versions. I don't know if you have a previous version to X15. I'd be curious about that. Okay, rafter length. Let's talk about that. You got 164 3/8. My number calculates. I'm not sure where that calculates from. I get 163.5. Let's open up this and add our label as you did, object specific length, and I'm going to add an object specific center line length, and we'll talk about what these come from. All right. As I said before, I get the 163.5, and you get 159, and you got 164 3/8. I'm not sure where that number came from. So let's check out our dimensions here. Okay. So we'll get into why this subfascia isn't lining up to the 16-inch in a minute, but for now, I'm just working off the numbers you had. It's all in the settings of your roof planes. 11'1" is the total run of the inside of the subfascia to the inside of the ridge, right? So let's just draw a diagram over here, and while I'm dragging that, I'm going to go 133 inches. That's 11'1", just to confirm. There's that, and I'm going to drag a line like this. And if you click on number style, you can click pitch, which I did. Typically, it's on degrees. You can go to pitch, and we're going to go to hold the lock start point and go to 8 in 12, and there is our the top of our rafter right there, right? I'm going to drag this back, and that is 11.1. I'm going to hit the F10 key so that I can drag this, and I'm going to hit D, Control D, I should say, to make sure it's parallel to my 812 pitch. And let's go to primary, open that, go to primary format, turn off default, change it to inches. Oh, look, 159 and 7/8. That is 159 and 28/32. That number looks familiar. That's 1/32 off of what this label says is center line. So where does the 163.5 come from? Well, that comes from, let's copy this and make it 5.5 inches apart. And I'm going to hit F10 to keep my angle snaps on. And I'm going to make my vertical cut for my rafter tail. And now I'm going to leave F10 on and just make a dimension line from the rafter tail to the top of the ridge. Now that's not quite accurate because when I go to primary format, I'm opening the dimension line, go to primary format, uncheck default formatting, switch it to inches, 162 and 13/16. That's not quite it, but notice we're not parallel to the rafter either, so I select the dimension line, hit Control D for parallel. There's 163.5. Look at that. 163.5. The numbers are actually adding up correctly to what is modeled. Now, it's not adding up to your spreadsheet because the model isn't actually reflecting the spreadsheet. As you noticed, this 11.1, let's take a dimension from here to the edge of the roof plane, is 2.25, not 1.5 inches. 2.25 is your 1.5 plus, let's open up this roof rafter and go to structure. So we've got eave subfascia is a 2x6, and then we have eave fascia is a 1x8. So if we take a cross section, let's close this. I don't want this anymore. I want to take a section in this direction. And I'm going to turn on framing. And let's turn on ridge caps and roof planes. There we go. It doesn't actually frame it out, but it leaves the space in the section for this 1x8. There you go. And let's take a dimension of this. Let's do this. Okay, end-to-end, CAD objects. Just so we see what's going on, what's what, I'm going to frame the wall so you can see the 16 inches is going to the outside of the 2x4 wall, to the outside of the fascia. So if you really want this to match your spreadsheet, then you would need to make this overhang 16 3/4. Okay. So center line is this number. Rafter length is this number. And we can prove it by putting dimensions on this. Let's put a dimension right there. In sections, it does tend to automatically add these points because it's like not understanding. So rafter length would not go to the fascia, it would go to the rafter. Let's open this and change that primary format again. There's that 159 and 7/8, which, as we noted before, is 1/32 off. And we can copy and paste hold position that same dimension. And let's move this point marker to the point tip of our rafter length. Okay. So there's the 163.5. So they are actually measuring 163.5, 163.5. Now notice you get a minuscule little 1/8 of an inch cut for your soffit if we put our 2x6 subfascia on here. So it might actually technically, let's make this parallel. Turn this angle snaps off. So it might actually technically be 163 and 9/16 to get your vertical pitch cut. But that's the actual length of the model of the rafter. Now, trick thing here. Length, the macro length dot 2 underscore is it FT? Yep. So 13.626 whatever. It's going to inches because that's the default length of the system. And actually the dimensions are just doing the conversion for you. So that's that. Rafter length is total length of the board needed. Overhang. We discussed overhang. We discussed the center line length. Oh, let's go to center line length, which really is the same thing as this right here, right? We're just going to draw a center line from there to there, midpoint of that vertical cut to midpoint of that vertical cut. And we'll go to primary format inches. Interesting. For some reason, the top one is 159 and 7/8. Oh, you know what? Let's make this because that's actually so it's within a 16th. It's either 163 and 9 or 163 and a half. If we do the 11 foot 1, Again, working off the numbers of the model, not not the actual way of the spreadsheet, which this overhang should be 16 3/4 according to Chief's, the way Chief's model would be. Either that, or you don't have a subfascia, or you don't have the fascia. You turn off the subfascia and just make this be the 1.5 by the 2 by 6. If you're just doing like an aluminum wrap, you turn off the subfascia and just make the eve fascia be the 2 by 6. And then your roof would remain at 16 inches from the wall, not 16 3/4. At 2104, you're saying 119 1/4 is the rafter length. That would be the bird's mouth cut length.
Diagonal. So the number we're looking for, the real rafter number, is 143 5/16.
143 5/16 isn't. That's the rafter number, or the bird's mouth cut, right? Let's go into Chief and do the section here. You want that number right there. Let's place a point marker right here. Move this point marker right up so I know for sure that that's where that's at. And I'm going to take a dimension. You're saying 119 1/4, which we can confirm that. That's too far away, so I'm going to drag this right up to here. Let's just go in here and make this dimension default inches, so we don't have to keep doing that. All right, so that's good. 119 1/4. And I'm going to turn off my angle snaps. So I'm going to snap to this point, to that point. That's parallel 143 5/16. And that's exactly what you got too. 143 5/16. So if you're wanting the bird's mouth cut, then maybe one of these, I'm going to delete 3 of these rafters, and I'm going to multiple copy these over. Nope, better turn my angle snaps back on. So they're all looking the same with the same dimension, same labels, right? And I'm just going to pull this back to the exterior wall. Now that says 147. Let's see why it would say that. Let's take a section of just this, and once again, let's see there's the center line length, 143 5/16. Remember that center line length is the same as the top edge length from top of rafter to the end of the. Okay. Let me go end to end. Turn off my angle snaps by hitting F10. I'm going to just drag it up there, and I'm going to click on it and Control D. Make sure my point is correctly located at the top of the rafter. And this point needs to be located right there. 145 and 11/16. No, 147 is where it's going to be. So let's just move that point to 147. And maybe it's following this imaginary line on the bottom of the perpendicular to that. Yes. So the 147, you measure along the top edge all the way down to where that bottom edge would get cut for the vertical vertical cut of the rafter. But center line from, let's do this. I'm going to copy and paste this. Midpoint of that line. Midpoint of that line. Let's make this red. Center line. That goes actually not to this line, that goes to this vertical line right here. That's what it is. There we go. That red center line is the same as the top length, same distance from here to, let's see, mount. Top length from here to here is the same as from here to here. So that's what that center line distance is. That's where that could come in if you did this type of dimension. 143 and 5/16. And that is the exact number you got here. 143 and 5/16. All right. So soffit length, we discussed that, 16 3/4. You are correct. To dimension to the long edge of a jack rafter, is not very easy, not as easy, right? Let's go to this long edge of jack rafter at 2615.
That
You measured
over the wall. there's my run.
8, 7,
And
11 sixteenths to the wall. Sorry, I'm flipping out here. But you're correct. That measures to the center of this rafter. Now, since this is an 812 on both sides of hip, what I need to do is I can place my point right here in the center of that rafter and move it up toward the center of the hip. And as I'm dragging, I'm going to hit the tab key and just move that 3/4 of an inch, which is half of the rafter width. And now I'm going to move that dimension to the point. And there's my 8, 7, and 11 sixteenths, just like you had here. So that would be one way of doing it. Now, your question is like, do I need to do that for every one then? No, you don't have to. What you can do is grab that point marker, and I'm going to copy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. And we're going to move it 16 inches to the right of X and minus 16 down in Y. And now I can just this one a measure, it'll go to there. And give all of these dimensions, if that's the way you want to do it. Etc. Now this one's a bit trickier because we got to move the hip as well. Let's take a quick section of this like so, and I'm going to switch to my framing layer and turn off my roof planes and ridge caps. Let's move this one back over. So let's move, does this just move over to here? I'm going to undo that and select both hips and move that from here to there. Now if I select this ridge and rebuild the framing, we're going to have a problem, aren't we? Let's just do that, demonstrate, and it's going to go right back to where it was. I'm going to undo that. And now, yes, these are 16 on center. So in plan view, they have to remain where they are, which means I just need to trim these. I'm going to trim the fence. Undo that. That is not what we want to do. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to delete these, hit these jack rafters. I'm going to adjust the shortest one where it should be, and then I'm going to copy multiple times over here and use this just to extend like that's pretty darn near where it's supposed to be. And then select that hip again and extend fence on that side. Now, what's a quick way of duplicating all of this? Select all of that, delete it. Select this side. Copy about the ridge. And there is our framing. Build a material list. Gosh, I haven't used material lists in so long. There it is, material list. Activate materials for all sizes, linear length, cut list, roofing, rafters. We need a rafter. We need 4 rafters. 2x6, 10 foot 5 1/4. We need a rafter 10 foot 9 7/8. Let's go find that object in plan. There we go. That rafter is 10 foot 9 7/8. Let's see if it is. Let's go label, specify, insert, object specific, length, 129 7/8. Let's take a section. We already have a section of that, don't we? Right there. I'm going to delete this hip so I can see. Let's take a dimension. Here to there. That's top of the bridge. I'm going to take a line here to there. 1/16 off. 129 13/16 is what this says. 7/8 is 0.875, so we're less than 0.025 inches. So there's a cut list. R8, that would be a 12 footer. That would be a 12 footer. You know, so they're gonna get wrapped up in that. So yeah, if you're trying to provide actual like cut numbers for the bird's mouth, for the rafter tails, etc. This may not be the easiest program to do it in. There we go. I hope this was helpful. Let me know what you think. Take care.